Turns out there was more to that settlement between President Trump and the IRS. The Justice Department is now forever barred from auditing Trump. The addendum, which was quietly added Tuesday, says that the government cannot examine tax returns of the president, his family, his company, or related companies. It applies to anything filed before the agreement was reached, which was on Monday. And the settlement also creates a nearly $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. The president's acting attorney general was on Capitol Hill yesterday defending that fund.
Simple question. Will individuals who assaulted Capitol Hill police officers be eligible for this fund?
Well, as it makes plain, anybody is
just let me know if they're eligible for the fund.
As was made plain yesterday, anybody in this country is eligible to apply if they believe they were a victim of weaponization.
Will you encourage them to have a guideline that says those who have been convicted of violent acts against police officers are not eligible?
I will definitely encourage the commissioners to take everything into account when determining who should get compensation.
Okay, joining the group chat, we've got Democratic Congressman Joe Morelle of New York. So a lot of your colleagues took the opportunity to ask these questions about how the fund is going to work, who's going to get the money. But I want to play for you a Republican. It was Mike Rounds, who's on the Appropriations Committee, and he asked this question.
It would appear to me that Congress will have some say because there's an appropriation of funds someplace along the line. But, right now, it's just a matter of waiting for details from the White House to come out as to what it is.
So you haven't got any documents or anything like that?
I have not.
Yeah. No. Okay. No. But this is something that certainly has congressional authority.
Well, we're not talking a million. We're talking a billion. So,
right.
In this particular case, even Congress pays attention to that.
I love that he says even Congress, even though that's technically your job. But there have been funds before. 9/11 had a compensation fund. Can you all do anything if people like Mike Rounds start to raise questions?
Well, typically, compensation funds are for people who have been wronged in some way. This compensation fund, it appears to be Trump's friends or other people who have violated the law and are offenders. And the fact that they can't answer the question about whether people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th are going to be compensated is astonishing.
Well, they've all been pardoned, or I mean, they are now people with clean records.
Yeah, no, they don't have clean records. They've been pardoned. But
fair.
I mean, let's be clear. And what we've done is now added complete insult to injury by doing this. This is Trump's personal lawyer, Todd Blanche, who maybe has a guarantee of future employment, who knows, who's the acting attorney general, who has signed off on granting immunity to the president and his family and his organization literally forever, potentially, in return for a $1.8 billion amount of money to go to people who have offended, who have broken the laws in the United States.
Let me play for you a conversation Caitlin Collins had last night with the vice president, because she was asking the same question, almost the way you're framing it. Sounded like this.
You previously told me that anyone who assaulted a police officer on January 6th should go to prison. So why not rule out giving them taxpayer-funded money?
Well, Caitlin, what I said is we're going to look at everything case by case.
But why not rule it out?
Because, Caitlin, there are people who I don't know their individual circumstances, and I don't rule things out categorically when I know nothing about a person's individual circumstances. We're not making commitments to give anybody money. We're just making commitments to look at things case by case.
Peggy, do you think he answered that in a convincing way for people? Sorry, Penny.
Yeah.
Do you think he responded in a convincing way? He was sort of like, well...
He was great in the press conference yesterday, and I thought was very direct on a lot of this. I mean, I think this is a culture change that's happening. Listen.
In what way?
Well, I think that DOJ has a long history of punishing with the process. And this is setting a precedent, by the way, for a few after this administration. I think Democrats and Republicans have had enough of DOJ bankrupting people in their own defense, and then perhaps these are cases in which they were politically motivated.
I noticed you said after this administration. So
well, I'm saying that this will live on. This is a precedent. So I'm saying that people like the congressman here maybe shouldn't be a little bit introspective in the fact that this is about now, but we have set a precedent now about a culture change of DOJ. I have friends who lost everything they had because they were targeted by DOJ under the Biden administration, and had a heart attack because of it.
Well, this MAGA slush fund, first of all, unconstitutional. Congress has the power of the purse. But clearly this is to reward people who try to overturn an election. So I'm not surprised by J.D. Vance and election deniers' comments. The problem with this, not only it shows how morally disconnected Donald Trump and the Republicans are from the American people, because people cannot afford gas, groceries, and goods. But it's almost like the people who shouted, "Hang Mike Pence," the people where officers died, and people were killed, they're being rewarded for their behavior. And I think that's
but not all the J6 people did extreme things like that. Some of them trespassed.
But anyone can apply.
Right,
and
but
by
that
the
doesn't mean
way,
they're going to get it.
I might just say,
they can apply, sure.
The Vice President talks about doing that on a case-by-case basis. The President issued a blanket pardon to over 1,000 people who were at that Capitol who, as Antoine has said, beat police officers. Not all, you're right, but issued a blanket pardon. To suggest that they're doing this on a case-by-case basis is ridiculous.
Let me play something for you guys, because more than once I have seen someone in the mainstream media describe this a very specific way. This time yesterday I played The View, today it's going to be Charlemagne the God from The Breakfast Club on Tuesday morning.
Our taxpayer dollars going to this weaponization fund to compensate his allies should piss you off. Okay, you should be outraged. Not only is it corrupt, it is a blatant slap in the face to the economic hardships folks are facing. Okay, Trump told you he don't care what you're going through financially. All right, he's not even acting like he sees what you're going through. All right, he's not even detached from people's economic struggles. He just doesn't care.
I am wild by this, because when I try and get people interested in an IRS story, you should see the blank stare that goes across their face. Yeah. This story is traveling. It has legs. It's connected to the next story. You'll get a chance to jump in. The Vice President, as you said yesterday, answered a lot of questions. He also defended the president's stock trade. So if you look at Trump's financial disclosures right now, there are 3,700 trades in his portfolio in the first 3 months of the year, and they are worth $220 million. So he's trading on companies like Microsoft, Apple, Meta, Google. Back in April, for instance, he happened to post about Palantir when Palantir was having a bad week financially. And then people saw this Truth Social post that says Palantir technologies have proven to have great warfighting capabilities and equipment. Just ask our enemies, which of course included the company's stock ticker. So these disclosures show that basically the president's portfolio has bought $500,000 of Palantir stock the month before. And in the 2 weeks after that post, Palantir got a boost, 19%. Here's J.D. Vance and his explanation for how this all works.
The president doesn't sit at the Oval Office on his computer on his Robinhood account buying and selling stocks. That's absurd. He has independent wealth advisors who manage his money. He is a wealthy person. He has had success in business. He's not making these stock trades himself.
Wanted to let you get a word in, because again, this is about, is the president enriching himself? Is he enjoying wealth that the average American person right now feels like is wildly out of reach? Basic goods are out of reach.
Well, there's a question we should all ask ourselves every day when it comes to this. Would it have been okay if this was President Barack Obama, President Joe Biden, conservatives, MAGA extremists, however you want to describe them? We all know what their response would be. It is unheard of and unprecedented for a president, a government official, to be enriched the way Donald Trump and his family has been since taking over office. And I think there should be some sense of accountability from the legislative branch about this. But I got to make one quick point. When you talk about weaponizing the Department of Justice, no one has owned weaponization of the DOJ more than Donald Trump. He prides himself on retribution from DOJ. Ask Tish James and others about that.
Let me play one more thing for you guys, because I do think this is important, and to let you have the last word. This was CNBC stock guru Jim Cramer, who also asked about this. And I always like to play the business press, because they only care about the business part of this. And here's how Cramer what he had to say.
According to the filings, the president's been trading some intel in the quarter. Yeah.
Yeah, I trade.
Got nothing to say about
Well, yeah. All right, don't worry. We're not having technical difficulties here, everybody, but we got to go.
Speechless whelp, basically, from the business.
We need to end stock trading by members of Congress, by the president, by the vice president, as we ought to get everyone out of prediction markets as well. This is insane. And the notion that the vice president would defend the president's actions, he should just be quiet sometimes and not sound so ridiculous. Like, we get that the president's sitting at his laptop, but if you don't think the president has the ability to affect the markets, you must live under a rock somewhere. I mean, this is obvious, and the president has enriched himself and his family by billions of dollars and monetized the Oval Office unlike any president in American history.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for being here, Congressman. Next on CNN this morning, President Trump's push for security upgrades to that proposal for the White House ballroom. It's actually getting some resistance. We're going to ask why some conservatives are suddenly raising concerns about that billion-dollar price tag. Plus,
this show is incredibly out of touch with where Americans are.
Welcome to MAGA. Welcome to Drill Baby Drill.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy defending his road trip reality show. Democrats blasting him for being out of touch.